So you may know, last month, Samantha, Lindsay, Melissa, and I, plus over a dozen other TCs and business owners, had the opportunity to gather in an informal setting as a retreat to mastermind, set goals, create vision boards, and really just spend time together to plan out 2023. This event was put on by Mandy Reidinger and Amanda Churchwell, and it was so incredibly well thought out and executed. And honestly, I'm just so extremely grateful to them for the amount of work and energy and that they and their team members, Amanda's leadership team, plus Becky and Nicole from Mandy's team, spent putting this together for us, because it was honestly amazing in every way. So today, partly because we're still talking about the retreat a month later, we thought it would be valuable for a handful of us who attended to share what our 3 key takeaways were, plus our 1 action item that we either have already implemented or plan to implement in the new year. And I'm happy to start since I've kind of already got the ball rolling here. So my first key takeaway is really a mindset and perspective shift. So what was interesting about the retreat for me is that this was very different from the TC conference in January, in the sense that while there were a lot of mastermind sessions and amazing conversations, I didn't really spend a ton of time writing down a lot of notes. I spent most of my time listening, just processing what was going on around me and connecting with my fellow TC business owners. But among the things I did write down is my first key takeaway, which was brought to us by Amanda Churchwell. And what I wrote down is, keep your perspective in check. We are so insignificant in the grand scheme of everything. We are tiny specks in this massive universe, but we act like our problems and issues are so monumental and so important. You really can't make a phone call to an agent. Really? You can't, or you won't. And there is nothing wrong with not wanting to do something for yourself or your business. But we have to change the way we frame that in our minds, because at the end of the day, it's a decision. We are the sum of our choices. I chose to be a business owner. And as a business owner, I can choose to call this agent that I absolutely can't stand talking to, or I can choose not to. There is no, I can't do this. I can do anything I choose to do. I can make cold calls and post on social media. I just don't want to, so I don't do it. And I think that for me, once I accepted that mindset shift, I felt so much more empowered and confident in the decisions and action steps that I was taking to move the business forward. So to summarize, my key takeaway is, you are the sum of your choices. Who wants to go next? Melissa. Melissa raised her hand. Go for it.
Yes. My first takeaway is the importance of a retreat. And, retreat is something that we use to describe, retreating from your business, from your family, from your life, from your house, from your pets, everything. And while the conference is so informative and we learn so much and we travel to that and we feel like there's so much value that needs to be brought to that, the idea of retreat is really like a processing, like taking the time, because we're in business and we're always having to make decisions and answer. We have like 20 different hats that we're wearing of things that we have to do, actions all the time that we have to take. And it's really, really hard to disconnect from all of that and actually process and think, what do I want? So I would just say, like, my first key takeaway was just the importance of that. So, a retreat isn't going to be what it is if it has 100 people. If it turns into a conference, it has to be small. So if if it's just you go and I even joke, my daughter is a new mom, and I'm out of town this weekend, and I told her, I'm like, do you want to go to my house? Nobody's there. It's going to just a house that's not your own, where none of the chores are yours. No one's going to bother you, and you can really just journal and think and plan and process and figure out what you want to do with your life and what you want to do with your business. And that's a big part of what I did while I was there. Let me see my notes if I did. Yeah, I think I hit all it.
Who's next?
I'll go.
Awesome.
My first key takeaway was just about the community in general. I know we have these Facebook communities that help, but I think just us being, most of us work remotely. A lot of us started during COVID, maybe a little bit before, but we came out of an office and have been at home. Most of us don't have a friend that's in the business right next to us. Depending on your location, you might know some other TC business owners. But a lot of the people that we know in our community are online strictly, and being able to get out of basically that alienation mindset, I guess. We've alienated ourselves. We're working at home. A lot of us are introverts. I am, at least. And we don't have people to talk to about all the things that we're going through. So being able to connect with people one-on-one, and the difference of the conference versus this is that the conference is, here's my business card, it's nice to meet you for the first time, and we're training together on specific topics, maybe some brainstorming. But this is getting to know people on a more personal level, finding out about their family, the life that they came from, how did they get into the business, what are their struggles, being able to connect with them and say, hey, we're both having that struggle, or, I just got over that struggle finally. That's been huge for me. Having somebody to connect with that I can say, hey, this is actually my friend. And instead of calling somebody local to talk to about my business, because man, I'm so frustrated today, and them not understanding and being like, man, Lindsay, is your job hard? Is it easy? I don't know anything about it. It doesn't make sense to me. Now having a friend to call that I know on a personal level to talk to about those things is huge. And with that, I think there are definitely some people in our community that have imposter syndrome, that think, this isn't a business. This isn't a real business. I'm not a real business owner. I'm not the Amanda Churchwell. I'm not Hello Leverage, those big companies. I'm not Nicole. I'm never going to get there. And especially with the new features on Facebook in our community where you can now post anonymously, we're not being vulnerable. We're not, being real or true to us. And in these smaller one-on-one situations where you can actually talk to those people, you are very vulnerable. You're telling your truth as you can't hide behind a screen. And what you find out is you're the same as everybody else. We all have the same problems. None of these big companies started and are big companies the next day. We all have problems, and we actually all have pretty much the same problems that we've had to overcome. So being able to brainstorm on those problems together in a one-on-one setting is really nice. And then the last one is just kind of with that is having the friends to lean on when you're having a rough day at work and don't know how to deal with that agent. Don't know how to phrase that email or whatever it is, having, a connection of somebody that you can lean on or ask for advice. We might have coaches, we might have mentors, but somebody that really knows us that was great. So just having a community that's not virtual, and I made connections that I would never have made otherwise without going.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing.
That means it's my turn.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I have imposter syndrome. Yeah, so I feel like this kind of fits in with everything that everybody else has said so far. Like, I definitely was experiencing imposter syndrome walking into that retreat. I was super nervous and very worried about what I was going to be bringing to the table, because so often I do feel like I am just behind where everyone else is. I did not come to being a TC from the real estate world, and I often feel like an outsider, even though I know that's all in my head. Do you know what I mean? I've been in this business since 2018, and I've done a lot with Nicole. Nicole is my business partner, and I know I've grown a lot as a TC, but I still feel like I'm lacking. So for me, my first big takeaway was, it doesn't sound like it really fits, but that personal growth is leadership growth. I realized that I keep putting off my own personal needs, my own personal, the things that I know that I need to do in my personal life to grow, to be a better person. I forget that all of those things will also make me a better leader. And I don't even know what part of those conversations it came from, but it just kind of slowly dawned on me that all of that stuff I've been putting off, all of those things that I need to do for myself that I haven't been doing, those are the things that I can do that are going to make me a better leader. They're going to make me a better business owner. They're going to make me a better TC. So that was my big mind shift.
Awesome. All right, on to our second key takeaway. And mine is actually a time blocking strategy in a book, which I have here. It's called At Your Best by Carrie Newhoff. And this was just mentioned in a casual conversation with Nicole from Mandy's team. I'm still reading it. I'm about halfway through, but the core concept in this book is being aware that as humans, we really only have 3 to 5 highly productive and focused hours per day. So with that in mind, right, we assume we have an 8-hour workday, and for those 8 hours of work, we're going to be doing our best work and getting all this stuff done. And it's going to be great. And that's just really not realistic. And your time should really be divided into zones, which are in the book he describes as your red zone, yellow zone, and your green zone. And your green zone is our most highly protective spot where you feel the most focused, energized, and motivated. And when you have your green zone each day, actually looks different for each person. So once you establish and you kind of go through this process of figuring out when do you actually feel your best and when do you feel your worst, then you start figuring out what tasks and goals you set for each zone during the day. So your green zone tasks should be, number one, what you enjoy doing the most, what you are actually best at doing, so where your gifts are, and what your most important tasks are. And ideally, you structure your green zone time block so that there's overlap, and the tasks that you are most passionate about, the best at doing, and also the most important for you to complete are the same tasks. Your yellow zone is when you're less focused and energized, but can still be productive. And you do your slightly less important tasks during that time of day, but you have more energy and concentration than your red zone, which is where you are the least present, the least energetic, and the least focused. So the strategy, which I'm still working on implementing, was really huge for me. I was a person who always said, time blocking is not for me. Time blocking just doesn't work for me. I never stick to my time block. I never want to stick to my time block. I just wrote it off as like, yeah, that's for those other people that are more disciplined, right? But, in reading this book, it actually made me realize that part of the reason why my time block was failing is I am not a morning person. I cannot get anything super important or be fully present and focused first thing in the morning. It doesn't matter how much coffee I've had, what time I wake up. I'm just not there. So for me, from 9 to 10 a.m. is actually my red zone. And the tasks that I am able to get done during that time are those that I do without really thinking about it. So for me, my red zone tasks are adding and updating contacts in my database, transactions, because I still have a handful of files. I've been doing those for so many years. It's, I don't have to think about it. Marking invoices as paid in QuickBooks, like those menial tasks that still need to be done, that's what I'm doing in my red zone. So again, I'm still working on implementing this. I'm still working on figuring out, I don't know what my yellow and green zone looks like yet, but my key takeaway is you really only have 3 to 5 productive hours per day. When are those hours for you, and what are you doing during them?
I love that, Nicole. I actually, my time block day is set up very similar, where I have my redundant, don't need to think about them tasks in the morning. And actually, I probably start later than most. I don't usually roll out of bed and onto the computer until 9:30 in the morning. But one thing that David always challenges me on is, okay, you found success. Why is it succeeding? And that's always something that's very hard for me to verbalize. And I did not understand why that time block worked until I happened to overhear that conversation that you two were having about that. And then it was all making sense. It's like, I'm doing some of those things only because I was rearranging my time blocks until I found something that worked, not because I understood the why. So I would love to read that book now that I know what it is. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Actually, Lindsay, you shared that with me when I asked the question in one of the groups about because I was trying, I'm the same way. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not going to work for me. Cause actually like my best time is like from 8 to 10. Cause I start working a lot of times between like 6 and 7 a.m. So I do my like first things, and then I'm ready for like a good thinking project. And usually at 8, nobody's even bothering me yet. So it's not a nice time where you're not that interrupted. So yeah, I'm looking already at putting my green zone probably between like 8 and 10.
Awesome.
Get at least the first one. So cool. Yeah. And I wrote that down too. So I guess since I'm already talking, I'll just move on. So my second takeaway is pretty much exactly what Lindsay's first one was. So I'm just going to add a couple of things about it, about just the importance of networking with others. Because like you're listening when you share, when other people are sharing, you're like, okay, how does that apply to me? Yes, I get that. Yes, but, and you're thinking about all the ways it maybe is different for you. And you see, and you feel all of your own like insecurities of like, I wish that I was further along in this place. And you connect with someone and you see that they're further along with you and they have really good advice that's going to, a lot of times, like save you a lot of hard knocks. It's wonderful. But then when you stay in the conversation long enough, it might not be something that you're able to help them with. It's not like a back and forth, like one person to another person, but you see that exact same person who is excelling in one area has something else that's just nagging at them just as much as whatever is nagging at you. And and this is just a side note, but someone on Facebook talked about, Christmas card people. And they were like, oh, I just got my first set of Christmas cards. So now I know which people have it all together. And I'm like, well, I'm a Christmas card person only because that's a huge priority for me. But like, I haven't wrapped anything. We haven't bought anything for our children. Like, just because you're a Christmas card person and that's a priority doesn't mean you have everything together, because it just means you have that one thing together. And we forget that. And I referenced, I don't know if y'all all remember that old CarMax commercial where they would squeeze a balloon and they'd be like, well, if you get more down payment, a lower down payment, higher interest rate, lower interest rate, higher down payment. And they're just squeezing the balloon. And that's really what we are with our businesses. Like whatever we're focusing on, like, or, squeezing something else, we're not. And so you just really get that perspective when you talk to other people who are in the same boat that you're in, or similar boat than you're in.
Love that. That's awesome.
So I was going to talk about how my second takeaway was the whole green zone thing. That was the conversation Nicole and I were having at the same time at the conference or at the retreat. But I'll kind of put a different spin on it. It was, this ties into my imposter syndrome thing. I think it was Amanda who was talking about recognizing your successes. And I realized that that is something I don't do. I am really good at pointing out to the other team, hey, look at what that cool thing that you did. You know what I mean? I'm so proud of you for setting that boundary. I'm so proud of you for holding your ground there. Look how much you've grown. But I don't do that for myself. And I'm also not good at being grateful for those little things. Yeah, so something that I am trying to do now is just be more cognizant of our little successes and track those little successes, and not just for the team either. Like, it's one thing to tell them congratulations, but I messaged Nicole yesterday and was like, hey, I'm really proud of myself because of this situation. I felt like I really handled that well. And it's those little things that I think are going to have a really big impact on my mindset.
Absolutely. Awesome.
I feel like we need a chart that just has little bubbles that we can fill in. And every time we get a success, we've got to write it in, because it just makes us feel good. And then we can see over time that, hey, holy moly, that's a lot of successes, right? Versus just your 1 or 2 major year-end goals.
Yeah. I bullet journal. I can totally make that happen. I can just put a page in there and be like, my successes for the year. And then I can send it to Nicole or the rest of our team and be like, look at all the cool shit we did, y'all. Okay.
Just as a Cultivate Wins plug here, what is it that David always says, right? Many wins are huge, right?
Yes.
It's everything. It really is. That's awesome.
Yes.
Lindsay, what was your second point?
Okay, mine was about leadership, and that one of the qualities I guess we need as leaders is to be able to control our emotions. And we talk about, this is very TC oriented, but we talk about our troubles with agents a lot. We're not getting CC'd. They didn't send us the addendum when on our third request, or they keep saying that they're sending it, but it's not attached, or whatever it is, these frustrating things that are happening to us. And it can so easily pile up, and all of a sudden, we're off our rockers. And if we're in office with somebody, with our team, any little facial expression like that, any, showing that frustration is going to spread that negativity to your team. Having it, just on one day, you might just have a bad day, but if you let it continue to pile up over time, what you're teaching is frustration versus overcoming that. So a lot of us work remotely, so that's not a huge problem, but those issues with agents and just those little annoyances, these aren't huge things, but they're little things that happen all the time that just, they really make us angry, right? And they're frustrating. So when we're talking with our team, one of the big takeaways were that we can never vent to our team. We are there as leadership. They should be venting to us, and we should be providing them with ways to overcome, tools, templates, reminding them, hey, yeah, this sucks and it's going to happen again. And this is how we're going to go about making sure that it's really not a problem for you, because this is how we're going to respond. This is how we're going to continue to follow up. It's really not that much extra time or extra work, or, whatever your system is, but it's, as leaders, it's our job to de-escalate versus bringing up an issue. And part of that kind of goes back to my first aha about community, which is you really need an outlet to vent so that it doesn't get vented to your team. And if you have a partner in your business, that's great, but it could, like Nicole and Samantha, you guys could vent to each other all day long. And at the end of the year, you might say, oh my gosh, do you remember how much we vented to each other versus talking about successes? So even though you guys are both in leadership, it may not be healthy for you guys to vent to each other, right? So it's finding a balance of, one, who can I lean on? Who can I vent to? Because for our mental health, we do need to vent at some point. How do we have those discussions with our team members when they are venting? And then the last point on that is, we've got a huge meme culture right now, which I love. I love the memes. And there's some good TC memes out there for those instances, you know, funny ones of you forgot to CC me, whatever. And those are nice, and they might be fun culturally to send over Slack to your team every once in a while. But even letting those get out of hand, you know, having a full channel dedicated to memes that are just slamming left and right, venting, it can just, we want to make sure that when we're building culture that we're not accidentally putting a negative spin on it. Yeah. And that's something that we have to be intentional about. Yeah, so that was kind of that.
I love the way you phrase that. You know, I think there's a fine balance between having a safe place for your TCs to go to vent and that negative culture. And it's really about finding the balance between that. One of the things that we did after the retreat, after hearing the same conversation, these same topics, is we added a venting channel, you know, within our group chat. So, you know, we have a place for people to go that is a safe place to vent, but that way it's not like our main chat where people are, you know, asking questions about contracts and systems and whatnot. That's not getting buried in between people being like, oh, this agent did this stupid thing again, right? And that, I think it's really important, really key.
Well, and I think one of the comments on doing something like that too, just so that doesn't start to create, you know, a whole stream of negativity, was as leaders, that allows us to pinpoint people that are becoming frustrated.
Yep.
When we might not know about it. They might be venting to each other and not even thinking that this is something that they need to come to us about. It gives us an opportunity to provide training on those frustrations. And also it gives us an opportunity to step in and stop a conversation if it's too negative.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of value in still having that thread, because it allows us to start controlling some of that as well.
Absolutely. Very well said. Awesome.
I'm just going to interject something really quick. When I was a teacher and I would come home from teaching first grade and want to vent, I had kids at the table who went to the same school. So all the things I had to vent in a way that was very, you know, and it was always John Doe. So it was like John Doe. It was always, they thought there was this one really bad kid that was in my class. So I think it's good to, like, if you're going, like, keep it anonymous for the agents, because, you know, they're first graders, you know.
You're not wrong. But,
and it's going to happen. They're busy. It's just what it is. So that's kind of more the thing of, it's going to happen. It is what it is. And yes, it's frustrating. And this is how we're going to handle it.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So my final key takeaway has to do with who our best agents are and where they came from. So this last quarter at Dotted and Cross, we've been working on identifying our ideal client. Michelle Martinez actually has done an amazing webinar on helping you figure that out and identify your ideal client. I highly recommend you reach out to her to get access to that. But at the retreat, Michelle dove a little bit deeper into the concept. And what my aha was realizing that now that the market has shifted, I've really been slipping back into this mindset of, we need more files. We need more agents to get more files. I don't care who they are or where they come from. And that scarcity mindset, because that's what it is really a trap. And in fact, I think that because the market has shifted, it's more important now than ever that we are focusing our time and our energy on the right agents for our business. And it's going to look different for everyone too, you know, but who are the agents that send us every deal? They talk about us nonstop to their colleagues. You know, who are the agents that we are excited to see in our inboxes and on our phones? And how do we get more of those clients? So the first step for me was, identifying the source of that business. So first figuring out who those agents are on our roster already and where the heck did they come from? How did I meet them? How did we onboard them? And then from there, you can develop that lead generation strategy and basically duplicate that process. So to summarize, my key takeaway was that I need to shift away from that scarcity mindset and focus on the agents that I want to be in business with. I need to identify where those agents came from, and I need to audit my existing systems that are in place to capture that business and then make adjustments and changes as needed.
That's awesome. I guess I've been going second after you. My third thing is decide what kind of business you want. And so it's a little bit similar to that. What I've been doing with those agents is like the agents that love me. And back when we were super busy and my idea was specializing on contract to close, perfect contract to close, make it scalable. And now during the shift, I'm like going back to those agents that gives me all of their deals and are going to do business no matter what. And I'm working on new service offerings for them because they're already raving fans. They already trust us completely. So we're doing things like helping them clean up their inbox. I'm doing some like helping them with a calendar for farming. And I used to not like to do listings, but now I'm like, I'll do your listings. And for those, I haven't really been doing that for brand new agents, but just the people who already love, I'm like talking to them, what else do you want? Like, what can we do for you right now? And they know that I may not offer it forever, but maybe to them, and kind of beta testing it with those ones that are already a raving fan. And so far, so good on that. But deciding what kind of business you want, what kind of looking at different income streams that you didn't think of in the other market. I mean, guess what? Agents are too. They're like, short sales. Rentals. I mean, like they're trying to do the same thing. They're thinking of ways outside of the box, and we should too.
Awesome.
My third, takeaway was something that Amanda said, and I didn't write down exactly how she said it, so I'm probably not going to do it right. But she said basically, we need to find a way within ourselves to wake up in the morning just content and happy with ourselves. And this is, improving ourselves before our business. But that with that mindset, when you go to business, having one of those small frustrations is not a big deal. We know how to handle it. We can breathe. We are content, happy with our lives. This is just a minuscule task that I'm dealing with today. So I didn't really write down a whole bunch of stuff on that other than that. I think is a huge goal that we all should work towards every day, every moment of how can I just be happy and content with who I am, not with what I have, not with who I surround myself by, but just who I am at the moment. So that one was really short.
I think it's okay to have short stuff. I think that kind of ties into what my last takeaway was. Success is going to look different for each of us, not just for each of our businesses, but for each of us as individuals. Nicole and I are in the same company. We are partners in our business, but her version of success for her is going to look different than my version of success for me. You know what I mean? Realizing that, that was kind of a big deal for me, because we all kind of look at our businesses and we're like, I'm not where I want to be. Like, I don't have Amanda Churchwell's business. Well, guess what? You're never going to have her business. And nobody is ever going to have dotted and crossed. And you know what I mean? Like, we all are our own versions, and that's okay. And what we want out of our businesses, where we want to go, those are going to be very different things. And that's okay. It's okay. So yeah, another small one from me too.
I love it. It's awesome. All right, so now we've given all of our key takeaways. And so next is our action items, what we actually took away that we are planning to implement or have already implemented. And so my action item that we have already implemented is pretty in your face obvious, and I'm kind of embarrassed that it took us so long to implement this at Dotted and Crossed. But first, to give you just a little bit of background, if you've been a team member in the Dotted and Crossed organization, or even really heard me talk about our team for any length of time, you know how we feel and what our company culture feels about meetings. I come from a background of useless, time wasting, and sometimes toxic corporate real estate sales meetings. And that ate up all of my productive work hours. And one of the results of that was, in leaving that job, was I started a company with the culture of why meet when we can send an email or a video? And so while we still have that overall mentality, I personally have finally seen the value in very short, purposeful meetings with specific goals and objectives, especially within the leadership of an organization. So my action item was for Sam and I to implement a weekly management meeting. It's just the two of us. We do this on Monday mornings after we've had our coffee and I'm out of my red zone. And in that meeting, which usually takes 15 to 30 minutes, never longer than 30 minutes, we go over what we did in the last week, what our key goals and objectives are for the current week. We also have a book club between the two of us where we're reading the same sections of the book, which guess what? This is the book we're reading right now. You know, since we've implemented these meetings, it's really only been a few weeks. Like we've only been back from, you know, this retreat for like a month. I can't tell you how much we have grown personally and professionally, and just how much we have executed and accomplished within the business, because that accountability, that clarity and prioritization of what we needed to be working on and what we needed to do were all missing pieces within our business. So, you know, you might be thinking, well, duh, Nicole, like figured this out years ago. We meet every week. You know, it's not like who doesn't have meetings within a company, you know, and I think that's amazing if that's something that you figured out a long time ago. But my question though is, when is the last time that you audited the effectiveness of those meetings? Is there a way that they could be shorter and more productive to get more time back in your productive hours? Or is there something missing from those meetings, like a book club or highlighting, again, what have you accomplished? What are your successes? So again, my action item were weekly management meetings that really do follow the 5 by 5. They are efficient, effective, scalable, duplicatable, and freakishly predictable.
That was going to be my action item too. And we actually talked about this at dinner last night. So I just have a couple of things I wanted to add to this before I tell you my other thing. So we've been keeping it really short because we want these to be super short. We don't want them to be something we dread. It's meant to give us actionable items that we can work on during the week in a real measurable way, right? So it's not just work on the CRM. It's I'm going to spend 1 hour reviewing our CRM to see if it's going to, like, what I can do to improve it, where we need to improve it. But it's little measurable tasks, right? It's not I'm going to read this book. It's going to be I'm going to read these specific pages of this book, and then we'll talk about it. Not all of it has been work related either.
Yeah.
Like some of it has been stepping away from the desk. I'm going to take a break at this time, or I don't know, just little stuff. But I've also been writing about this. Like I have been keeping a written record of our meetings. For one, because I work best with a to-do list. I don't know about you guys, but if I don't write it down somewhere or take some kind of note, I'm going to forget about it. So I'm also automatically keeping a record of our little wins. And they are little wins, right? Because every week I've got those 3 items that I checked off, even if it is just something little tiny, like having read my 2 chapters of our book, I did it. So another thing for me, like my other action item was I had mentioned that I felt like gratitude was something that was missing from my own practice. I have put a task on my everyday to-do list. It pops up as a calendar alert. What am I grateful for? And I, in an effort to impact our team culture and lead by example, I am posting 3 things that I am grateful for in our group chat every day. And we've got a great team. I love our team, but I've also really enjoyed seeing how they follow my example. Like, I say what I'm grateful for, and then everybody else is chiming in, and I get to celebrate all of the things that they're happy about with them. And I just have really enjoyed creating the opportunity to share that kind of gratitude inside of our team.
So my action item is to really get my clarity on my finances. One, because of the market shift. 2, because when I set up this business, right, it was kind of more of a hobby kind of thing, and I never did what I should have from the get-go. So making sure that I'm treating my business as a business as I should. I did finally hire a bookkeeper, and they're going to go retroactively through this year and get me all up to speed. So I'm super excited about that. I know in my being vulnerable in my personal life, I'm wasting a ton of money, and I can't tell you exactly what on, other than I do go out to eat quite a bit. So one thing that David had suggested to me was maybe hiring a bookkeeper for my personal life as well. So just so you guys know, Wise Wizards does provide that for your personal life as well. And it just helps you, again, get clarity on what are you spending money on, how much money came in this month, and how much money did you spend. I know it's easy to look at the checks coming in and say I've got a bunch of money here, and I've got money to spend, but what does that actually look like in your bank account? I've been pretty good throughout my life on budgeting, and when I say budgeting, I mean I make a spreadsheet of what I should be making and what I should be spending, and there's some money left over. But that doesn't mean that I then go at the end of the month back to what I've spent and did I actually hold up to that budget? Or is that just, it's really just some piece of paper that I have stowed away somewhere. It's not something that I am honoring. So I'm really excited to move forward with 2023 being clarity on my finances. And then one thing that Amanda suggested was obviously to cut expenses anywhere that you can right now in this market, and not just because of the market, but every day, no matter what kind of business you have, that's something that you should be looking at, is not just spending because we have funds, but making sure we're running a really tight ship. So in combination with getting a bookkeeper for clarity on what's actually happening in my finances currently, I've read Profit First, which is a great book. And I've started to go through what expenses I know I do have and start marking up what is actually bringing me profit. It's because it's leveraging me out, and it's less money to pay for this tool versus my hourly wage myself. What is something that I can replace, because maybe it was something that I only ever looked at once and I used the first thing that was in front of me, or maybe it was the most popular at the time, and I've never really thought about how can I rework this? What else is out there competition wise and maybe less expense? And then what am I going to cut? What are some expenses that I have that I've never used, or really aren't bringing me profit? So I've started that list, and I've got quite a few things that are going to be replaced for sure. And I'm working hard on some of our workflows to cut a lot of the tools that we've been using. Not to cut automations or any of those useful features, but just to redo the workflow so that we can get around some of those third-party fees.
Awesome. I love it.
Well, guess who's action item was also hire a different bookkeeper.
Yeah.
So at the retreat, so this is what happened to me. So I have somebody who does a profit and loss for me every month, but they take my bank statement and my credit card statement and give it to me like around the 15th or 20th of the month. So I always, so it's basically they're geared for agents, and they're more for making sure that you are paying your taxes, like what your tax liability is. And that has been great for me for several years. But this year I started getting frustrated for the exact same reason as Lindsay, where I made my budget at the beginning of the year, and then the reports that they were generating weren't easy for me to be able to see what my spending month to month and quarter and the seasonality and the quarters of the year to see if I was actually doing what I was supposed to. So I decided, like, I had these P&Ls. I also had this like big dread because I knew how slow the business was, but because my reports are so after the fact, and it was like I couldn't really implement something this month because this month's half over by the time I get them. It was just I had this like this dread, and I really wasn't dissecting them. I was looking at the bottom number and being like, oh. And that was it, closing it and not going back to it. So at the retreat, so what I'm saying is, like, even if you don't get to go to a retreat like this, book time for yourself where you actually, because I was there and I'm like, all right, I'm going to look at this stuff. And so like during some of our downtime, I pulled up my numbers and started looking at the percentages of things and wanting and knowing what I was longing to see that I wasn't seeing in these reports. And so that I had the tool that I needed to talk to interview new bookkeepers of here's what I really need to know. I need to know what these income streams are. I need to know like my return on investment on tools that I'm paying for and what clients and what business are coming from that, like all of that kind of stuff. So I decided that at the retreat. So I would say that I guess a final takeaway is, like, we're heading to, hopefully most everybody on this call is going to be able to go to the retreat in January, is really go ahead and schedule some time, either with, if you have a team or just with yourself or you have a partner, really just book time on your calendar now before things get busy, for you to really take the things, your notes that you've learned, and actually what am I going to do differently in my business now? Because January is a perfect time to do that. And you'll take all those notes and you'll put them on your desk or on the shelf, and then you just won't do anything. And it's a big expense to go to a conference like that, and you really need to implement the things that you learn and make that a priority before you even go. That's it.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
I'd like to point out that even though this was a TC retreat, and I think a lot of us are TCs on this call, none of the takeaways or action items can you hear me now? Thank you, David. None of the takeaways or action items that we all talked about are TC specific. They're all either personal growth or just small business or business in general ideas. And I think that was just in talking and masterminding, there were some kind of small annoyances that we were trying to figure out how can we make those easier and overcome them. But the majority of things that we were talking about was just being small business owners and navigating life and business. So I think that's kind of cool.
Agree. It's amazing. Awesome. I do want to say a huge thank you to Samantha, Lindsay, and Melissa for doing this with me. I really appreciate you guys. And of course, a huge thank you to Mandy and Amanda and their teams for putting on the retreat in the first place. And just to kind of reiterate some of what Lindsay and Melissa both said, if you are ever presented with the opportunity to attend something like this retreat or other events within the community, please don't isolate yourself. Even if you're nervous, you have imposter syndrome, maybe you don't really know anybody very well, It really doesn't matter. It is really vital for us as a community of people who do mostly work from home. We're behind a computer almost all day, every day. We have to make that effort to get out and network and support each other. And these types of events are such a powerful way to do that. So I know, like we said before, that the next big TC event is the Empowerment Conference in Nashville. I do believe there are still tickets left. And I hope that everybody here will make it. But yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything else, we have a couple minutes left. Can open it up, or anybody has any closing thoughts. I know there are a couple people from the retreat that are on this call as well. And if anybody there wants to speak up on something, I know Kazi, I see you, and Michelle and Mary, if any of you want to, not to put you on the spot.
I will say something.
Yeah.
So in the retreat, one of the big things that I personally wanted to get out there was for everybody to be cognizant of the fact that, yes, we are business owners, we have our own industry, and we have big corporate entities that are entering our industry. So we have to protect ourselves, protect our logo, our copyrights, our trademarks, and stuff like that. These are things that we now have to think about, because the trend is for everybody to think of themselves as just, you know, I'm just a TC. So you kind of forget that you're a business owner as well, and you have to protect your assets and your business. So just, you know, that's the hill I'm going to die on, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you went through it yourself with your business, you know, personally, so you can speak from firsthand experience onto how important that is to protect yourselves. That is one of our other action items for next year at Audit Cross is to get trademarked.
You know what, Nicole? What was interesting, like we were just talking about it that afternoon, and then literally remember that girl that lost her trademark that same evening. Like she got booted out of Instagram for trademark violation, and she lost her trademark. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Her name was just taken from under her, and she couldn't do anything about it. Like talking about it and then real life experience. I could not imagine that I don't have my name tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I just love getting together with everybody in this community. Yes, we all have businesses that are basically similar in a sense, but we all run it so differently. And every time we talk to each other, it's like we each just rub each other and grow just a little bit more. So come January, I'm just rubbing on everybody and getting a little bigger. All right, we're good.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Miss you, Samantha. And Nicole, you too. I'm not playing favorites, but we talk all the time.
Yeah, with Lindsay, we talk all the time.
I have so I'm Kazi, for those of you that don't know me. I own Level Up TC, and we facilitate Hawaii and then a team here in Colorado. It was my first time actually meeting Nicole, Samantha, Michelle, a lot of the people that I've been Zooming with for years, and see them in person and they're real people was pretty cool. I've never been to a TC business owner retreat ever, and it was a huge impact, and it was like extremely valuable. Everybody there, it was just such a great group of ladies, and we all are in different parts of our journeys, and everybody was more than willing to share. And that alone, like, I'm not even kidding you, right when I got in the rental car with the group that I was with, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be amazing. Like just the conversations constantly, and also with having fun as well, you know, enjoying the retreat and just sipping on wine, talking to people about their structures of whether it was commission structure, their pricing, their everything, the platform that they're using, the CRM that they're using was extremely beneficial. And Nicole and Samantha specifically, I had talked with them, and some of the things that really impacted with me when I was having the conversations with them is that they were willing to share it all, and they were completely open about it, honest. And one of the things that I really liked when I was talking with them is they were talking about how they reach out to their clients immediately, and they're asking them the right questions, like, hey, how's my service? What do you rate it? All of that, because that's important. And that's something right now in my business that I'm identifying is an issue, and it's a problem when you don't
make those calls and have the conversations, especially right now too, just with retention and making sure that your real estate agents feel and see value in the service that you're providing. I think it's huge. And then Michelle, for example, I got to meet her finally, which was really exciting. And I really love how she's super authentic and she just says it like it is. And because of us TCs and PC business owners, we know that we get run ragged and don't really get appreciated much as a TC. And we bend ourselves backwards. And Michelle's like, hell no. Like, if you don't like it, then we're not a good fit. And I really, really love that because it's like, why are we always trying to accommodate and putting ourselves and our business last? And even with just, she has subscriptions and everything. So it literally got me thinking, like, I don't have to do just per transaction, per file. Like, you can truly create whatever you want in your business and make it as unique as you want. Because all of us too here, we all do things completely different. The industry that we're in is very unique, and there's no set in stone right way to do it.
That's right, Cassie. We're making it up as we go.
Yeah. Failing forward too, right?
That's right.
Seriously. Awesome. Well, does anybody else have any parting thoughts before we let you guys go? I think we're nearing the end of our time. David, is there anything you wanted to add? I know your voice is essentially gone.
I'll just say, first of all, I'm just really grateful that Nicole, you were willing to do this. And the number one question I've gotten is this being recorded? Will we, oh geez, I can't talk. Will we be able to rewatch it? We will. Christy's going to do an amazing job. We're going to put notes together from the entire thing. And we'll go ahead and get those posted up in a blog, and we'll have the video posted on YouTube, hopefully by next Friday. Tons of love, guys. Couldn't be more grateful for this hour. Couldn't be more grateful. Love this community.
Thank you guys. Have a good one. David, go get some rest. Bye.